Your birthday since it's 17 days away.
Okay,
18.
so we are live on Facebook, and I'm recording this on the my laptop as well. I will upload it to YouTube. So welcome to the third session on preparing for the software industry for ages 8 and up. So in the last two sessions, we covered we took a peek into the large organization, what a large organization looks like. And we were discussing about the various departments or teams or groups in the software organization. We talked about product management. So product managers are associated with the product. They manage the product. They are product managers, marketing, customer service, they all deal with, or even sales for that matter, sales and channels, they all deal with the customer.
So like the outer end.
Yeah, the outer end. So last time we talked that these groups are, they're all interacting with the customers, but in different ways. The product managers have a focus on the product. The salesperson have focus on the sales, and the marketing team has a focus on the market. And customer service, of course, is to serve the customers if they have any issues and things like that. Yeah, feedback, issues, and things like that. They help with those kind of issues.
Is software part of it too, because we kind of help customers?
No, the whole organization is software organization. We are talking about a software organization.
Oh, yeah.
So design and development are the engineers who design the software and who develop the software. And engineering is a repeated process. You break down the big chunk of software development into pieces and then repeatable pieces. That's what engineering does. Right? So tech pubs. So who are tech pubs, team?
Well, what does pubs mean?
Can you guess?
Publication?
Yeah, pubs stands for publications. So technical publications. They are the documentation team. You make a great product, software product.
So like user portal?
Yeah, so it's like the user manual.
Like they make the manual and like they broadcast it?
They write the manual, and there are different ways. These days, users do not like to read long manuals, right? They want things fast. So the TechPubs team is going through a revolution. They are inventing newer ways to communicate information to the users.
Like videos?
Yeah, like videos and augmented reality. So no, augmented reality. Yeah, virtual reality can also be used, but the documentation team is more and more resorting to the augmented reality stuff.
How would augmented reality work?
So augmented reality is
Like fake or forced reality.
You can augment the reality, right? So an example, okay, let us look at the website if there's any example.
Wait, would augmented reality be like, because like virtual reality is wearing those headsets and like looking around. Yeah. So then what would augmented reality be?
Augmented reality. So this is an example. Oh. This is an example of augmented reality.
Oh, they're
like these Google 3D things. There are these Google 3D things.
Oh, yeah.
And you get this, you put your device and hold it somewhere so that the object that they made on screen would show up in the room on the screen.
Oh. Yes, if you remember the tigers and lions and all that stuff. So that is augmented reality. So you can see augmented reality. HoloLens. It was a...
Create your future as a filmmaker. Immerse yourself in directing, editing, and cinematography to get your degree.
Today, I get to show you something very special. It's something we've been looking forward to for many years. And now, you can. Look at the way that the holograms are spawning to my hand, almost inviting me to touch it. And in fact, I can just grab this corner to resize it. Or I can rotate it. Or move it. That's right. We are touching holograms.
See? Wow. So that is augmented reality. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is advanced augmented reality, but what you mentioned earlier, Aditi, is also augmented reality. So lions and tigers in the rooms, in the home, all that is augmented reality. You're augmenting the reality. What is augment? Augment is add. You're augmenting the reality with imaginary things. So that is augmented reality.
So basically holograms and stuff.
Yeah, holograms and stuff. So software typically runs on devices, right? Take, for instance, a networking company. The software that they make runs on a networking device. So they can pull out a hologram like this, hologram of the device, and then you can actually train. So this is, I actually attended a conference many years back where they showed how cars are being repaired. So if there's a problem with the car, you don't have to actually open it and do all that. Using augmented reality, you can understand where the problem is and things like that. So that is the latest in TechPubs. They are using almost every area. They're trying to modernize. They're trying to invent, and TechPubs is no different. But there's increasing pressure on TechPubs, the documentation team, to innovate. That is because people want to learn in newer and newer ways. They are no longer willing to read thousands and thousands of pages of written manuals. Like, yes. So when I was working in Informix, the database company, there used to be, the manuals used to be more than 1,000 pages thick, I think, for each of the products. There used to be a user guide. There used to be a reference manual. Then there used to be a
troubleshooting.
I think that is included in the user guide. But what else was there? Each one of them used to be thousands of pages. So it was pretty extensive. So people are impatient. They don't. First thing is storing all that and referring all that is not easy, and they want easier ways. If there is augmented reality, you pop up a hologram, and then you are able to diagnose, you are able to understand the device. So imagine this, right? Suppose you have to read biology book to understand what's inside the human body. Compare that to going to the Body Worlds exhibition in Tech Museum, for instance. Which one is easier? learning about the human body from the textbook or learning about the human body from the body worlds?
The body worlds.
Yeah, because it is interactive. It is interactive. You can visualize easily.
You can see it in so many
You can see it in so many ways. So that is what is happening in documentation area also. People are trying to innovate using augmented reality in the documentation area. So that is TechPubs. Sales and channels is about selling the product. How can you sell the product? So the salespersons have a quota to fulfill every month or every quarter. They're supposed to meet a quota. They are supposed to sell this much worth of merchandise. There are quotas like that. So as you can see, some of the jobs are not well defined. So you're pretty much on your own. So you don't get spoon fed. So that is the important thing you should note when you go to the industry. Spoon feeding or hand holding is very minimal. See, sales, how do you know? I mean, how can you have to think in different ways to reach out to the customers and somehow sell your products and meet the target. Otherwise, if you don't meet the target, it's as good as, it's not a good thing.
Don't sales and customer service almost require the same qualities and like?
So anyone in the customer facing, actually, you want to work in the industry, you have to be good in people skills, soft skills in general. But for the teams which are facing the customers, the product managers, the marketing folks, the sales folks, they have to be really good in people skills. You need to understand the other person very, very well. Only then can they be successful.
Like how some people can make you do almost anything just by talking to you.
Right, that's right. That's right. So that's a very important skill. More than anything else, people skills are very important in the industry because you don't work alone. You work in teams. And working with people is a very important thing in the software organization or for that matter, any industry. And particularly sales, there's no predefined set of tasks. You can't say, I'll do this, and I'll reach my target. No, right? Because the customer may buy or may not buy. So you have to be innovate. You have to be creative. And main thing is you have to understand the customer's perspective. It's very important. So that is the reason why always remember, you have a difference of opinion with somebody, take it as an opportunity to understand the other person's perspective. Where is the other person coming from? And try to see the other person's viewpoint. That's a very important practice that we should all get into. So that helps in every area listed here. That skill of understanding the other person will help in your personal lives and will also help in every area listed here. Right? So instead of, suppose your friend is not doing what you want, what you expect, do not get agitated. Try to understand the other person, your friend. Why is this person behaving like this? Try to understand from their perspective. That is the reason why in spirituality they say that empathizing is a very important thing. You have to empathize. You have to understand the other person's perspective. So that shows up in all these groups. So sales, see, engineering, at least you have a set of things to do. Okay, tomorrow I go to office, I do this, and I'm done with my work. I'll be happy. You can't say that with sales. Because sales,
you're never done.
You do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. You're not sure that your job is complete because the customer may buy, may not buy.
So you have to keep on doing until.
Yeah, so you have to be smart. You have to be smart. You have to understand the customer. Yeah, you need very good skills and all that stuff. And you need to have a lot of connections. So many people think that, oh, what is there in sales? You just sell stuff to customers and then that's about it. Oh, no, it's not like that. In fact, sales is one of the difficult tasks. And that is the reason why the CEOs of companies, some of the companies like Cisco, for instance, he was a salesperson before. He was working in sales. He started as a programmer. He moved to sales. And he rose to the higher in the ranks and became the CEO of Cisco, the entire company. Right?
So basically the salespeople, like what are some examples of what they would do? Basically like call other countries and like ask if we can put our product in that country and stuff like that? Or like
yes,
get it out, call the newspaper company and ask them to print an article?
Right, you get the idea. Some of those things, what you mentioned, are done by the marketing team. Sales team is more focused on selling the product directly. So yeah, some of the things like going to the other countries and talking to the governments of the countries. For instance, there is a big project many of the countries are undertaking, governments of the countries. Do you know what that is? Can you guess? Did you hear about smart cities?
No.
So many governments are working to implement smart cities.
Which are?
So there's your city, like San Jose is a city, right?
Yeah.
So the government, the city government of San Jose can decide to make the city a smart city. What does that mean? So that means, no, not that way. Everything will be interconnected, number one.
Like,
okay, let us see.
Everything will be online. Like, to do anything you want, you have to do it online.
No. Think of what services the city provides.
Volunteer.
What services does your city provide?
The library, schools, roads,
stores,
festivals, parks.
Okay, look at this.
Maintenance, mail.
Life is full of surprises. Your utility bill shouldn't be one of them. With Sunrun,
the city of the future is smart. It's entirely projects are popping up everywhere. For instance, in Nigeria, South Korea, India, or Malaysia. A livable city that can think for itself. How does this work? Like this, for example.
Visions of the future. This is a smart city, as imagined by tech companies and urban planners. Regular streetlights are replaced by smart poles, which connect to other Internet of Things devices and provide broadband. Thanks to driverless cars, accidents hardly ever happen. And drones and robots deliver goods, even coffee. In this future city, salad grows underground at the urban farm. Augmented and virtual reality make processes more efficient. One example is that firefighters on duty can be assisted by the control center. And tech helps to find and correct system errors to prevent damage before it happens.
Sounds fantastic. But in order for these ideas to become reality,
so that is the concept of smart cities that people are trying to achieve, governments are trying to achieve.
Right? So basically, like everything is like connected together to the Wi-Fi or to like robots,
right? Wi-Fi,
intelligence,
right?
To make things disasters. That's like
right. So the traffic lights turn on automatically based on the traffic, and the cars are all self-driven. And so a lot of the services that the cities provide will be automated. And a big part of that is what is called as Internet of Things, IoT. So internet, you all know what internet is, right?
Yeah, the World Wide Web.
So So you might be thinking that internet is something that connects all these laptops and machines and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But it is going beyond that and connecting even things. So for instance,
like robots?
So like at home, we tell Siri, not Siri, what is it? Alexa. Alexa to turn on the lights, right? We are already doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That is an example of Internet of Things.
Oh, is it like how there are things called smart homes where you can say, Alexa, open the blinds.
Right.
Alexa, turn on the light. Alexa,
Right.
So the entire city
turn on the stove.
Yeah, the entire city.
So expensive.
That's so, no, the expenses are coming down. Electronics is coming down.
I thought they were increasing.
So, yeah, no. So the iPhone, for instance, today you are getting for $1,000. The same functionality, maybe 20 years or 30 years back, would cost you $1 billion, 1 billion.
Because it's very rare.
Today's currency, $1 billion. Huh?
Because it was very rare, but now everyone has.
Exactly, the costs keep coming down. So cost is not a problem.
Like before Ford, cars were only owned by like very, very rich, super wealthy families, but now practically everybody has 2 or 3.
Exactly, that's things are progressing. With that is what is meant by development, right? Progress. So the costs will come down. Cost is not an issue. So.
But what about people's jobs, waiters and farmers and people like that?
That is the reason why we are moving towards. See, long back. When I started my career in India, we had a 6-day week. 6-day week and morning 8 to evening 4 is how much? 9 to 5, 8 hours. 8 hours for 6 days. Right? Now it is 5-day week. And people are already talking about 4-day week. So, yeah. In Europe and some countries, they experimented with 4-day week and they found tremendous success. So it's okay if the jobs disappear. People will only work 4 days a week. And the economy, as long as the economy is running and people are able to live by themselves, it's all good, right? So losing jobs is not a concern. It was a concern, in some places, some communist countries and some communist states. For instance, in India, there's a communist party and some states were ruled by the communist party for many, many years. So in such states, unfortunately, industrialization hasn't progressed as much as we want. So in some such states, you see, I think I posted one. Anyway, I will not go there. But okay, let me. What is it called? Kolkata, right? Kolkata rickshaw. Images. See? In some states, this is still going on.
Wow, what about autos and cars?
And horses.
See, this used to be an old image. It's an old image, but today, even today, I posted a image actually. Okay, let me check if I can find my image. Yes. No, it's not showing up. It's not indexed by Google, maybe. But I rode this kind of a rickshaw. See, like this.
But that's so cruel to the humans.
It's very.
It's not cruel. It's
well, it's a pulley or wheel and axle system, so it wouldn't be too much.
See this one.
Hard, but yeah.
Hand pulled rickshaw in the streets of Kolkata. So I traveled just 2 years back, I think. 2 years or last, yeah, 2 years back.
Is it hard to pull it?
They pull it like that. So
I want to be kind of unsturdy because it's only on 2 wheels.
Maybe I did not go on that, but I took a picture or something like that. I don't remember exactly what I did, but so they did not allow industrialization to go on in such states.
But if smart city is closed, so like those people, some of those people at least, might pull their rickshaw for a living. How would people, like if it became a smart city and then cars and self-driving cars and stuff started coming, then how would the rickshaw drivers and waiters, if drones started taking over waiters' jobs, then what would waiters and rickshaw pullers and everybody do?
Some jobs will disappear. They have to reorient themselves. Yeah, they have to become knowledge workers. See, like when I was growing up, almost every house, middle class family in India had a maid servant. So today in US, is there any maid servant? And similarly in India, there used to be drivers. Chauffeurs. But in US, even the US president doesn't have a chauffeur. Right? Bill Gates drives by himself. I mean, those days, Bill Gates, when Bill Gates was the richest person in the world, he used to drive the car by himself. So we can still make, even without some professions like the homemaid, right?
And
that job is gone.
There are other things that can be replaced. Like self-driving cars instead of chauffeurs and robot vacuums.
Yeah, right. A lot of things are getting automated and they are going to replace some of the jobs. So that is bound to happen. Not just the low-level jobs. With artificial intelligence, some of the white-collar jobs, means some of the intellectual jobs will also disappear, may disappear.
Like what?
Right. In the last session, I think you asked me, right? Somebody asked, was it in this session? Somebody asked if artificial intelligence is going to take managers' job. Oh. Was it you?
I think we talked about it. I don't know who asked it, but yeah.
Yeah. So some of the jobs will get replaced. We can't help it, but that's okay. And we have to reorient ourselves. Our skill set has to change. There is an increasing need for knowledge workers, right? And some jobs might get simpler, some jobs might get more complicated. See, machine learning and artificial intelligence, 30 years back, there were hardly any people pursuing those topics, right? But today, if you see, you become a machine learning expert, you have at least 200,000 followers on Twitter, 200 to 300,000 on YouTube. You should get the name and then you'll have so many followers. So many people working in the artificial intelligence and machine learning areas, right? So, and machine learning and artificial intelligence are the higher end, and for that matter, quantum computing. So when you grow up after 10 years, it might all be quantum computing.
What's quantum?
So quantum computing is a different paradigm of computing. It's a completely different way of how computers run. And they are super fast, quantum. So that's a concept in physics, actually. Quantum is a concept in physics. So they're what are called as qubits and stuff like that. I'll try to cover it later after a few sessions. Maybe next year I'm going to cover quantum computing, introduce you to quantum computing. But just think that it's a newer way of running the computers. And it's a super fast way. It is so fast that all your cryptographic algorithms will basically, you can crack those algorithms in no time. For instance, guessing the password. So you can write a program to guess the password, right? Remember in Tech Museum, I don't know if you saw that, but in Tech Museum, there's an exhibit where you can see how many attempts it takes to break a password.
But passwords can be made out of symbol, characters,
numbers. So it keeps on guessing. It keeps on guessing, and finally it arrives at the password.
That's really impossible.
Yeah.
It is with machines, current machines, it is possible. That is the reason why they ask you to come up with a very strong password, right?
A long one.
Yeah, long one and strong password. So I think my recent, one of the systems asked me to set the password which has 27 characters or something.
Wow.
So, yeah, because guessing that kind of long passwords is difficult. But with quantum computing, it becomes easy. Such programs run in no time. So cryptography has to be completely reinvented. The password systems and all that in quantum computing. So things are moving. Things are moving, things are changing. And quantum computing, see, today you are able to write programs for this computer, right?
Yes.
You, in your school, in your elementary school, you learned, what all did you learn? HTML?
Scratch. Yeah, we learned HTML. We're supposed to learn Python.
They taught you Python also, right?
Yeah, Python, HTML, and then we learned a little bit of the other languages like C++.
Yeah,
we barely touched them, but yeah.
Yeah, so you're taught programming languages. But with quantum computing, the programming aspects are a little more higher ended. So you need a lot more math background to program the quantum computers.
Because it's much more faster?
Yeah. So programming itself involves a lot of math in quantum computing. Maybe it will become simple later on. We don't know. But like programming was a complicated task 40 years back, maybe.
And now they're teaching third graders.
Yeah, see, we talked about Grace Hopper, right?
Yeah.
Grace Hopper.
Yeah,
the bug, concept of bug. So she used to program like, it was a very difficult task those days. See, computers used to look like this. I don't know why it should show that. Why doesn't it just show the image?
They were like clocks almost.
Yeah, they are huge blocks. And programming used to be such a complex thing. Right? So now it is in elementary school children are able to learn.
Third graders learn.
Third graders learn.
For fun.
Right? So same thing might happen to quantum computing as well, right? So we might, quantum computing programming might become simple. But until that happens, whoever programs quantum computers needs to have a very strong math background and needs to do complex things. Just like Grace Hopper did, right? So there will always be jobs which will be very difficult, and there will always be jobs which are relatively easy. Some jobs become easier, some jobs become harder. So jobs like keeping the house, housekeeping, it has become easy, right? So instead of, when I was a child, I still remember the maid servant had to bend. Most of the time she was in the house, she had to bend doing the work. So she used to bend to sweep the floor with a broomstick. Then she used to bend to wash the utensils, and so it was so hard those days.
And now we have dishwashers and vacuums.
So now that all that has become very easy. But what has become difficult?
Building structures.
Artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? So those are the areas where we need people to do a lot of the heavyweight lifting for the society, for the world. Right? So it is your choice. I mean, see, professors in a university, well, I don't want to go there, but so a lot of professions are making the same amount of money as those professions which are making really, which are really doing the hard stuff, right? So you take, for instance, a company like Cisco. The salaries are not too different for people doing different things there. Some of the jobs are very easy. Some of the jobs are really difficult. But the pay is pretty much similar. So, of course, each role has its own pluses and minuses. But the point I'm trying to make is that money is not the only thing. It's your satisfaction, right? You do mundane things, you get bored easily, right? What is the purpose of life? Life needs excitement. If you do mundane things and you don't look forward to tomorrow, then life is not really life. You're not really making the full use of life. And it can show up later on. After a few years, it can show up in a very bad way. Right? So it is your choice. Right? So where were we? Yeah, so we were talking about the Internet of Things. So smart cities, like you said, the salespersons, at the higher levels at least, like the CEO, for instance, the CEO of Cisco goes to China to talk about smart cities, how to implement smart cities.
Is it?
We can see the picture also probably on the.
You see a picture of like how when a president is running or when somebody's running for president, they go to different countries and make speeches, try to sell like their vote or themselves or their presidency and stuff. Is that kind of what they do?
Yeah, they do. They talk to the governments and I'm trying to see if there's any picture of in China. Like, for instance, this one. I'm not able to clearly see, but maybe this one. So, yeah, like see this one. Smart City Cisco. 5G, I think this is a picture from China, I believe. So this is the CEO of Cisco. So he went to this country, met with the government officials, and told them that, hey, Cisco is a big name in Internet of Things. So we can help you get set up for smart cities. And they get contracts. So the contracts define in how much time, what all can be accomplished to build a smart city. So they sign up, they come back, and they start working with the engineering team. They say, we want this to be done in this time frame. You have to execute it. Then the engineering team takes it and starts executing. Right? So it's all, there's no guarantee. See, the CEO of Cisco visited China, talked to the government and did all that. But there's no guarantee that the Chinese government is going to give the contract, right?
Yeah, especially like.
Yeah, but the CEO is bound. I mean, he needs to make money for the company. Otherwise, the shareholders may not like it.
So basically sales do the same thing except in like smaller ways.
Yeah, sales does something very similar in smaller ways. You're exactly right. Yeah.
There must not be a lot of sales jobs then, because we don't need those many people to go and make speeches.
No, not like that. Sales is a very important. Where do you get the money from? You make a great product, and if people do not understand what the product is, what it can do for you, where is the money coming from? So that is the job of sales. They go to these conferences, they set up booths, and we visited some conferences, right? Did we? So in the conferences, there are booths, right? There are some people from the company telling.
During fairs.
Yeah, fairs, right? They talk about their products and things like that. So those are all salespeople. So sales is a very important function. And so you should get used to that. You have to work in smarter and smarter ways. So that's what they say when you do PhD, right? Till you do masters, it's like you're given some assignments. If you do those assignments correctly, if you answer some questions correctly, you get points for those, and you might get an honor roll, or you might get good grades and things like that. Right? That's what you are used to till the master's program. But once you get into PhD, it's not like that. You are no longer given homeworks. You are no longer given, just because you do all your homeworks, you do all your, you answer all your quizzes correctly, doesn't guarantee you a PhD.
Really?
Yeah. So you have to be smart. You have to work smart. You need to come up with newer ideas. You need to come up with ideas which have a lot of impact. So there's no guarantee that you will get the PhD, right? Because if you don't innovate, that is the reason why there are many dropouts. PhD program has many dropouts. So same thing with sales. You have to be very smart to be able to sell. So there's no predefined set of things. So you should think in smarter ways, even when you're growing up. See, if you want to see the CEO of Cisco, for instance, is a salesperson. Why did somebody from the sales team become the CEO, but not the engineering team? Right?
Because it's kind of almost the same job.
It's almost like yeah, that's right. But more important is these skills are not easy to gain. The person in engineering may not be a good salesperson. It requires lots and lots of years. Of course, the CEO of Cisco started as a programmer as well. He was an engineer as well to start with. But he moved to sales and he built that sales acumen. Acumen means intelligence, right? So he built that sales acumen over a number of years. So it is very important to start at some point of time. If you want to grow in career, it is very important to think in smart ways. The other way around, a lot of CEOs are also PhDs. Like for instance, you take the CEO of Synopsys. So the CEO of Synopsys has a PhD. In fact, most of the top brass of Synopsys have PhDs, almost everyone.
PhD just means that you're a professional in something. Like
PhD teaches you to work in smarter ways, which is needed at that top level.
Or like more things kind into less kind.
Yeah. Yeah, smarter ways, innovate, find newer ways, and things like that. You cannot expect to do routine things when you are in that higher level grades. You have to innovate, right? So it is important to practice those skills right from your primary school, actually. That's what elementary school. You have to think smarter. think different ways. So when your teacher is telling you something, if you listen, then it is hard work. If you focus and if you listen, it is hard work. If you don't even focus and you play with hangers and ribbons and you watch outside the windows, that is not even hard work. That is worse. So you should at least focus. By focusing, at least you will be able to, you're assured to get the points needed for passing, right? The school. Otherwise, getting a pass grade will also be difficult, right? But if you just listen, that's what happens. You might get a pass grade. But if you want to really grow and get the honor roll and stuff like that, you should ask intelligent questions. You should think different ways, in different ways. When you're reading the book, when you're listening to a lecture, or you're listening to in the class, think in different ways.
Isn't that kind of like quality assurance test? Because they have to think in different ways and keep on testing in different ways, don't they?
Quality assurance is a more of an engineering task. You go in a systematic way, and then you will be able to write tests. Of course, every area I listed here requires innovation. Every area. Where is the cursor? So every area listed here requires innovation. Some require more, some require less. So you have to be creative. So you have to be smart. You have to ask smart questions. You have to think in smarter ways, right from your elementary school. That is very, very important. Right? So sales is about selling the product. Marketing.
Is marketing also like sales?
It is like sales, but they focus more on the market. Means a broader spectrum.
Oh, like advertising.
Strategy, yeah, advertisements, and then strategies. They're more focused on strategies. I think I told you this, right? Did we talk about the bubblegum toothpaste and all that stuff? So in marketing, right, there are a lot of strategies. So when I was a small kid, the toothpaste, there was just one toothpaste for elders, for women, for kids, for everyone, there was just one toothpaste. Wow. I don't even remember, we used to use a toothpaste called Binaka. Later it became Sibaka. It was a standard toothpaste, either Colgate or Colgate is still there, right? Today,
yes.
Yeah, that is still there.
Use it all the time.
So Binaka, I think, is gone. I don't see it anymore. Binaka was such a important product, household name, that there used to be a radio channel dedicated, dedicated to Binaka.
Why
Binaka music radio channel or something like that.
Would they just talk about toothpaste all there?
Binaka Geet Mala. No. It's about songs. They used to play songs,
okay. So
but sponsored by Binaka. So it was such a. So we had just one toothpaste those days. But today there's so many. There are toothpaste for the kids. There are toothpaste for all sorts of things. For gum disease, there is a toothpaste. So why can't they put everything together? For similarly, the dresses, the t-shirts, right? So dresses, at least it makes some sense. So this color. See, when I was a small child, I used to wear pink shirt. Nobody used to say anything. But today, if men wear pink, they look differently. Right? I still remember one of my managers, one of a senior person in an industry. He used to come in pink shirts.
Because there was no like.
Yeah, but since maybe 20 years or something, the color concept is a lot visible today. Of course, the history goes in cycles, so we don't know how things are going to change. Maybe the old system might come back, but so why did this color concept come about? Why do they set aside some colors to only women and some colors set aside for men? Another question. We have these Mother's Day, Father's Day. What other days are there?
Grandparents Day.
Grandparents Day. Children's Day.
Teacher Appreciation
Day. Teacher Appreciation Day. So, I mean, do you really need a day to show your appreciation to your mom?
No, we need to do it every day. Like Earth Day.
In our culture, mom and dad are they are equivalent to God. So do you really need a day to show your respects to a God-like mother or father?
No, you should do it every day and all the time.
So why did they invent this? It's all a marketing strategy. All these are marketing strategies.
Oh, I heard somewhere that Valentine's Day is just an excuse for the companies to sell chocolate and cards.
Exactly. Valentine's Day, for instance. I mean, love is an every minute, every second aspect. It's a continuous thing. Do you need a day for expressing love?
You should be expressing it every day.
Yeah, you should be expressing it every day. Why do you need a day exclusively for expressing love? It's all a marketing strategy. Similarly, the toothpaste. Toothpaste, basically, you spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes. If you spend more than 3 minutes, it harms your teeth, right? So 2 minutes, 3 minutes, what difference does a toothpaste make? What huge difference does a toothpaste make?
It makes a difference in the long run.
Not so much, right? Not as much.
Just your teeth.
Yeah, just the teeth, right? So, but still, why do you have to differentiate the toothpaste? Why do you have to make different toothpaste for different categories of people? Because that is marketing strategy. So suppose in my younger child, when I was young, I was passing through, I mean, those days, these kind of supermarkets were very rare. There were, I think, I'm not very sure, but supermarkets, yeah, there were supermarkets. But suppose, okay, let us do this. You walk into a store, supermarket, grocery store, or whatever, Safeway, Albertsons, and things like that. And you see, of course, now you are grown up, but suppose a 2-year-old sees bubblegum toothpaste.
They'll want it.
They'll want it. They'll cry for it. But suppose there was just Cibaca toothpaste. Like when I was a child, 2-year-old, there was only Cibaca everywhere. Would I cry for Cibaca toothpaste?
No.
No way.
We just walk away.
We just walk away. So what does it mean? You have created a market for the kids by creating a new toothpaste, bubblegum toothpaste. I still remember.
Disgusting. It's disgusting.
Which one?
Disgusting.
The reason why they put about bubblegum toothpaste is so that it appeals to the affairs of the mouth. But actually it ends up to the kids swallowing the toothpaste, and that is so not good.
Exactly. You got the point, right? So the toothpaste makers may not necessarily have the well-being of the child in the mind when making the toothpaste.
Because what do they care?
Yeah. Yeah, like smoking, right? Smoking is dangerous to people. But still,
they're also adding, Kriti said when she was smaller, she said that they're adding flavors to smoking.
So that children will do it.
Yeah.
So that children will do it?
Yeah.
I think.
Oh my God.
That's what they say in all of the advertisements.
Oh God, that is really illegal. No, that I think there'll be government laws against it because smoking for children under 18 is banned, I think. It is illegal. Alcohol and tobacco products are illegal for 18 and under. So, but still, I mean, we don't know. I mean, things, see, toothpaste, like you said, it's so disgusting that they make this bubblegum toothpaste in spite of knowing that kids might swallow it. Right? So it's a marketing strategy. So that is the work, that is the job of marketing team. They need to come up with strategies. Again, they have to come up with smart strategies.
Not wrong, but
advertisement campaigns. Yeah, advertisement campaigns. Things like that. So that is marketing. Of course, these days there are very good models which will help the marketing team to make decisions. But back in the days when the machine learning wasn't, artificial intelligence was not so popular, a lot of decisions were based on intuition. But today they are more based on data, and marketing has become a little easier. But still, it is a very creative area. You have to work really very smart. Sales, marketing, you have to be really very smart. Right? So you understand what marketing is? So what they do? Isn't it, can you come up with strategies like that?
No,
to sell the products?
We think the old strategies. I think that's really cool.
So yeah, you have to develop that kind of mindset. If you want to grow in your career, see, you take most of the CEOs in today's world, they are either from marketing, they are either from sales, or they are from product management, mostly in the marketing area, the sales and marketing area, because they work smarter. So you need to learn to work smarter. It is a bit unfortunate in one respect because at least today's education is a little different. But when I was growing up, we almost thought that if we do things given to us, we are good. We can have a decent living. But things are changing. Things have changed. Learning is no longer about doing the things that are assigned to you. If you don't do even those, then that's a risk. But learning is about inventing, reinventing, and coming up with smarter and smarter ways of doing things. That is what is learning today. Actually, there is a, I forgot what is it called? Learning memory hierarchy. So, yeah, this one. No, not this one. Level 3, where is that? Is this the one? What does it say? Memory? No, not this one. So, okay, let us do this. Learning, memory. Evaluate. Yeah, this one. Bloom's taxonomy. This is called Bloom's taxonomy.
Oh, we learned about that.
You learned about that? Okay, good. So if you see, the base is remember. Memory is the base. Recognizing and recalling facts is remember. That is the base. Next level is understand. Next level is apply. Fourth level is analyze. Fifth level is evaluate. And sixth level is create. So only when you are able to create, can you really become the top of the company, right? So if you just do things that are told to you, given to you, then maybe you are somewhere here. you remember, understand, and apply. So if you want to grow up in the ladder in the company, then you need to focus on these areas: analyzing, evaluating, and creating.
It's kind of like way the words, it kind of reminds me of like a robot almost, because robots can understand, remember, apply, starting with understand, then they can remember, perhaps they can apply. But then as it gets higher, it starts getting less possible for robots to do those things, or for ordinary people to do those things.
Exactly. That's a very good example. The other example I gave you already is students focusing on what is being taught. So when you focus, you try to remember, you try to understand, you try to apply. But when you ask questions, what are you doing? You're analyzing, you're evaluating what is being told, and you're coming up with a new question, right? So that is important. So if you don't even follow what is being told, then not even this. You're not even sure of getting a pass grade. But when you start asking questions, participate in the class, give answers, then you are doing these, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So you should focus on these things if you want to really grow in career. And it's not about money, right? It's about satisfaction. I mean, when we end our lives, we want to be satisfied with what we gave to this world, right? That is the ultimate goal. So, see, like professors do mostly in this, they are in this area, analyze, evaluate, create. But they may not be making, in fact, professors are the least paid professionals in this world, right? Even not only today, even when I was a small child, there used to be a saying called, in Telugu, there used to be a saying called Bartakaleka Badi Pantulu. So it's like survival. It's always about survival when you become a teacher. So it is not about the money, right? It's about how much service you have given to this world. So that is a satisfaction you gain. You should look forward to tomorrow. That is important in life. You should be excited about tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to do this. This is what is going to happen tomorrow. Let me check. So that should be the goal. That's what keeps you away from depression, right? So it's not only about money, but about keeping yourself active and interested. Okay, I think we are at the top of the hour. So let us end the session here. So next session is going to be next session on this topic. We'll see when it is going to be. It may not be anytime soon, but in the meantime, try to learn. We talked about quite a few things today, right? We talked about augmented reality, smart cities, Internet of Things. See, your toaster will be able, the bread toaster will be able to talk to your phone. Internet of Things. That is the promise of Internet of Things. So you can tell remotely.
Alexa, turn on the toaster.
Yeah, turn on the toaster. Things like that. So that is a promise of Internet of Things. Everything is connected. Right? Okay, let us end the class. Let us end the session here. And any questions?
No.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, please spend time on these topics. And until we meet next time, have a great time.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.